Welcome, everyone. We are live. We are live. Can you hear me okay? If you are with us and you can hear me okay, can you just say yes? Thumbs up. Give me a little bit of notification that the audio is okay. Hi. Hi. Some random dude is saying hi. Okay. Really great stuff coming in tonight. I am so excited to welcome you all. I am so glad you're here and on time. I know people will trickle in as we go, but you are here and we value your time. So while we wait for others to join us, I know I've seen the registrants and people have registered from all over Canada. I've even seen some coming in from Texas, Alabama, and other places down south. But that's exciting. But let's start. So, share with us where you're coming from. Yes, yes. Okay, good. Sound is good. Sound is good. Thank you. Share with us where you're coming from. If you're from Winnipeg, like me, and um, some of the people that I'm with right now, I'm not gonna tell who they are yet, but share with us where you're coming from. I'm from Winnipeg. Yes. Hi, Tessa from Winnipeg. Other places that we have from other parts of Canada, from other parts of maybe US. Okay. Vancouver. Hi, Vanessa from Vancouver. Welcome. Is this your first time joining us? Joining Horizon Growth online. Okay. Anyway, Winnipeg. Okay, another one from Winnipeg. Thank you. Thank you. So while we wait for others, let me put my music off so that you can hear me fully. I know I'm excited. And I'm excited for what we're going to be learning and hearing about tonight. Um, Thank you again for being here. Now, just one housekeeping. We've been doing a lot of hybrid events for quite a while. This is, I think, after a year, we're doing pure online again. So it's been a while, but just one housekeeping to take note of. Your questions, we love them. So drop them anytime as we're going through the presentation, as we talk about the topics and the things that our guest speaker will share with us tonight. Drop them. We'll flash them on the screen for him to answer, and maybe Esther can answer it. And we have another guest with us to assist us with other things too. So drop them anytime. Okay, now I won't take too much of your time. This is not about me. I would like to welcome on the stage the founder. There, you can see the founder, a friend of mine, a real wealth manager, Esther Sande from Horizon Growth. And she is the one initiating this monthly talks, monthly workshops, webinars to really dive into topics about your finances and really give you the education that you need to make the right decisions. So, Esther, why don't you walk us through first what you do, your background, and then what can we expect tonight?
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for taking time off your busy schedule, especially after a hectic day is almost winding down, and you're all here to learn something today. My name is Esther Sunday, as you've all heard. Thank you so much, Camille, for your support. And I just want to help us understand that I've been in this space for the past 9 years, and the past 2 years have been very interesting because I've gone into different specialization, and I'm grateful that with God's grace, we are there. I'm currently a certified real wealth manager and a graduated IBC student, and I have my coach online, so we will be learning more about these concepts. But before I go into that, I just want us to know that Horizon Growth is helping us turn expenses and liabilities into wealth building assets. And that's why we are driven to make sure that people understand that wealth creation is actually within reach. If you do things properly and you get some knowledge on how to do that with the right expertise, you can get where you want to get to. Today's event is very, very interesting because it's going to help us understand the problems that lie around. Horizon Growth as all these services we also provide, and I don't work alone. So I have a team behind the scenes, and Camille is right here. I have other virtual assistants that are helping out. And then we have product providers that we use as a way of delivering the services that are suitable to what our clients need. So with us, we have Manulife, we have Canada Life, we have Desajan, The Age, Sun Life. The list is endless, right? So just so you know that when you get your strategy done, we go through these companies to make sure that you are well placed. Our strategy is debt management, proper protection, estate preservation, asset accumulation, emergency fund, and cash flow. So I'm very strong to help us understand that if you're a business owner, you have rich assets, right? But when it comes to liquid um, accessibility, we are limited. And that's why our guest today is going to help us unravel that. Now, as most of you have listened to me from the past YouTube videos I've produced or my reels I do, I talk about three biggest enemies that really eat into our wealth building. And the first thing is fees, right? So the fees we pay when we do our investments and all that is very, very important to know that that's one of the things that erodes your wealth creation. The second thing is inflation. We all understand how inflation eats into our investment and into our wealth planning. So we always want to make sure that whatever we do, we are beating inflation and reducing taxation at the same time. Now, the biggest one and the third biggest thing that we are going to tackle today is taxation. Taxation is the biggest thing. And that's why we said in our presentation that hands off my money CRA, right? We want to make sure that all of us understand there's a way of doing it legally so that you keep majority of what your hard work produces. But it all starts with self-awareness. If you understand something, then you know you are looking for a solution. So, with that being said, my journey began for this particular practice. I got so interested to understand how I can take control of my own finances. It's very important to understand that you make money, but if you cannot control the income that comes into your bank account, you lost it. So today we are going to give you some tools to help you start taking control of every dime that comes to your bank account. But first, we are going to help you understand the problem. When you understand the problem, then only you can find a solution. And when you're looking for that solution, make sure you get the right expertise to help you achieve your solution. So, with me tonight, we have a very, very humble coach, a certified Infinite Banking practitioner, chairman of Infinite Banking Canada, certified financial planner, and also certified underwriter. And he has over 30 years of experience in this. He's been my coach in this space. And I'm just grateful that I can be able to steal this evening from him just to be here. He's all the way in Ontario, But as I said, you're never alone. You always have the support you need so that you make sure that you're doing the things the right way. And because we are going to be talking about taxes, we also have an accountant online so that as we tackle those issues and help you understand how you can keep more, questions that will be coming up in that area will be addressed by a profession. Remember, we are not tax experts, right? We are going to educate you. So I want to pass it over to my speaker, guest speaker, Scott Codier, and he will take up from here. And Yusuf will be in the background to answer all tax questions that comes along.
Yeah, that's
Just
the big
before
tax
we
guy
start,
down there. That's the big tax guy there.
yeah, the tax guy is right here. So if you see the background of Scott, he's actually a big fond of like what does
When does taxation become theft?
when does taxation become a theft? It's a big question for all of us, right?
Yep.
And the biggest thing is we will all start to listen to what he has to say. It's going to be a conversation, and I would like us to interact with him. So we are not going to sit here and do a presentation. We are going to have a conversation, and that conversation involves us chatting, dropping your comments and asking your questions, and it's going to be asking us some questions. It's just going to be yes or no answers. So make sure that you are actively responding to that. So, Scott, can you take it over, please?
Would love to. Glad to. Well, I wish I could see everybody who's here, but I understand there's quite a lot of people who have taken time out tonight, so thank you. As Esther said, I really want this to be interactive. So don't hold your questions to the end because they'll kind of be out of sequence with what we were talking about. Let's start this off right off the bat. Here's a question to everybody. It's yes or no. Do you like paying taxes? Drop in the chat yes or no and let me know how many people actually said no. We'll give everybody about another 10 seconds for that. What's the results? Good.
Okay, nobody wants to pay taxes. I think
Perfect.
3/4 of the answer. Oh, one
If,
person
it,
says they
if,
like to pay taxes.
if anybody says yes, get out now.
Who likes to pay taxes? Who said yes?
They were probably just checking to see if we were watching. That's all.
Okay. So we are all good. We
So
answered no. I don't want
here,
either.
I asked this pretty much at the beginning of every meeting with somebody new. Do you like to pay taxes? And the answer is no. Exactly, Vanessa. So the answer is if you don't like to pay taxes, stop putting your money where it can be taxed. It's really that simple. And the issue is we've been brought up essentially since birth inside of a system that has us focusing our capital into areas where they are fully taxed. So you got to stop and think about that for a second. Why are we doing this? Why have we been led to consistently do this and think that it's normal? As Esther said, actually next month of May, will be my 31st year in the financial planning services industry. And as I got more and more educated, more and more credentials, I realized more and more that the financial planning system is actually wrong. It's designed to take money away from you to allow others to make money while you're hopefully having it grow for you, but only to become a larger tax liability in retirement. So I'm glad that the title of tonight's presentation resounded with enough people to make them want to take time out of their day. I'd really like to get into the presentation, but once again, if questions come in, just stop me dead in the tracks so we can address them. So can we start the presentation, please? So everybody can see the question. If you're not aware of the problem, the solution doesn't matter. Yes? Esther, we're good?
We are good. I can see the
Perfect.
question, yes.
So that's a really important one. If you do not know you have a problem, one, the solution doesn't matter, and two, you're not going to spend any time looking for the solution, are you? Because you don't have a clue that there's a problem. Oh, my slide's not moving. Why is the slide not moving? You know, I love being live. Suddenly things just do not work. There we go. So I want you to imagine for a second, over the course of your lifetime, how much money is going to come into your hands, but how much of it falls right through? And it falls right through because we've been conditioned to believe that that is the way we handle money. Money comes in the front door, money goes out the back for expenses. And my goodness, if we're lucky enough, there's money left over for us to put away for retirement. So Esther alluded to a concept where the first 25 years of my business, I was a traditional financial planner, RSPs, TFSAs, up until just the last 15, 16 years ago. But I knew it was wrong. I just didn't have anybody or any way to find what the solution is. But the more I started to question the fabric of the reality of financial planning, the more I started to understand where the problems were. So the concept of infinite banking, and we're strictly just going to talk about the vehicle itself as a concept. Infinite banking is a solution to all of the financial planning problems that we have, but we're not aware of. So can somebody please in the chat, honestly, put down how much money they spend on vacations in the course of a year? Anybody, just a dollar amount. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, I don't get a chance to see the answers. Can somebody tell me if somebody's put something in yet?
No, not yet. But you know what, Scott? Travel to the Philippines. I'm from the Philippines. Travel to the Philippines just for the airfare will cost my family of five around 7 to 10 grand. So I
Perfect.
don't
Thank you
know
for that.
if I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to share
So
how
I'm going to make
much
this
you
easy.
spend in vacations.
I'll take it in the middle at 8,400, somewhere in that neighborhood. The reason why I'm doing that is because that is an even $700 a month if you were saving. So what we have to understand, and the concept I'm going to get across is called the apple tree. So there are two types of people. There are the spenders and they're the savers. But we want to create a third type, which is a wealth creator, which you're not aware of. So I hope nobody's on this call who is a spender, who would actually have to go into debt, take out a bank loan to go and pay for the vacation. I hope that we are at least responsible enough to be able to save the money so that when the credit card comes due, we can pay for it in cash. So when I say a saver, we have the money in an account that when the debt comes due, we can pay it off. So this is what a saver looks like. And you'll notice that the saver, actually I'll come over here, the saver saves money over time. So in this example, you were saving $700 a month. At the end of the year, you go to the Philippines, you come back, you open up the mailbox and there's the credit card. So now you take all the money out of the bank account that you'd saved for the vacation, the 8,400, and you're back down to zero again. Well, guess what? Next year, you're going back to the Philippines, right? So you're going to repeat the process of saving every single month, only to bring the account back down to zero. And we repeat this process for everything that we buy. We have the cash, usually in a bank account. And then when the expense comes due, we pay cash. And we're very happy that we pay cash because we're not going into debt, right? Cash is king, never pay interest, Always pay cash. If you can't afford to buy it, don't until you have the money. That's the mindset. But the problem is you have liquidity, use, and control of this money, and then you give it all away. And you repeat that process every year for every expense. I hope that makes sense. While I'm talking, if people could just put into the chat, yes, that makes perfect sense, that would be really helpful so I know that we're still on the same train together. So I'm going to give you an opportunity here to hire each of you for a 31-day period. And you're going to have to make a choice. You either want me to pay you $1 million for your 31 days, or you're willing to have me pay you a penny that will double every day. Before I move on, put in the chat, which one would you choose, please? And then if you could tell me what the results are, I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, $4,000. I'm not, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, so they're sharing 5,000. Zambia is 4,000. And now people are coming in with their answers. Let me flash that. Double every day.
I hope nobody wants the million because I'm
Double.
gonna be broke if nobody picks the million.
Second option, penny that doubles.
Interesting.
Penny that doubles.
Interesting. Oh,
Penny
look at,
double the day.
I love these people who
Double.
don't want to get paid a lot. I appreciate that.
Penny that doubles.
Nice. We have some very interesting answers here. It's almost more focused on the penny than the $1 million, isn't it?
Yeah, penny that doubles.
Well, you know, I think the thing is, I think they're realizing the penny is Canadian. Maybe the $1 million is, you know, Mexican pesos or something. But it's both Canadian dollars, and there'll be no tariff charges on this. So let's take a look at actually how this works. $1 million or a penny doubling every day. So I want you to think back to that process I showed you about with the saver saving the money and then taking it back out and starting over again. So after a whole week of working for me, you've got 64 cents. 2 weeks, I paid you $82. 3 weeks, you're at 10,500. But now the compounding really starts to kick in. By day 28, I'm paying you more than the $1 million. And by the time we get to day 31, it's $10.7 million. That's the power of not interrupting the growth of your money. So now imagine that you were saving to buy a car, and that car was $42,000. You now take the money out to go pay for the car because you've been taught to be a saver, right? I'm not paying interest, I'm paying cash. But if you take the money out, then you've reset the clock back to day one, and you've given up the compounding of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. From 42,000 to 10 million, you interrupted the compounding of your money because you chose to pay cash and take it out of the compounding circulation. 8 days later, you're back to a whopping $1.28. So I use this example, the apple tree, and I want people to put into the chat the answers. If you were saving money on a monthly basis for the trip to any of those locations we saw, but you know, we'll go back to the Philippines, and you were saving $700 a month. So every month you were growing that pool of capital, only to take that pool of capital out and start all over again. If you did the same thing, but we're going to use the analogy of an apple tree. Day one, you plant the apple tree. Every month, you go back to that apple tree and you water and fertilize it to help it grow, just like you're adding the $700 a month to your bank account to get you to the 8,400. At the end of the year, when you now want to go and get the apples, in the chat, put down the answer to this question. Would you grab a ladder and a basket, pick the apples, or would you grab an axe, cut down the tree, get the apples? Let's see what the answers are.
Okay, we'll wait a little bit. I think there's some delay here, but
This really is easier when it's live and there's like people just talking to you.
yeah.
I'm kind of enjoying this weird perspective on reality here. Ladder, good. Nice. Nice. Okay, nice. Good. I love these people. Sounds like nobody wants to take on the energy of cutting down the tree.
Basket to pick the apples.
We're all just too lazy. We'll just we'll just climb the ladder and pick the apples. I don't want to cut down a tree. Nice. Okay. So we'll let them continue coming in. I'm glad that I can see that. So it's obvious that if we pick the apples, then we leave the tree alone. And if we go back month after month, year after year, and continually water and fertilize that tree, the tree is going to continue to grow in size and produce more fruit. That is completely obvious. Nobody said they would cut down the tree. So my question to you is, if you wouldn't cut down the tree to get the apples, why are we cutting down the tree when it comes to buying things? Because you save the money and then you take the money out and you start all over again. You're cutting down the tree when it comes to how you pay for things. And as we can see here, this is an awful lot of lost compounding because you interrupted the growth of your money. If there was a way that you could have a specialized banking system that allowed you to store and warehouse your wealth in a completely uninterrupted compounding environment that's completely tax exempt, hands off CRA, and allows you to borrow against the asset while the money continues to grow. Wouldn't that be fabulous? The question is, what is the way which can allow this? This is what we're getting to, right? Once again, if we don't know we have a problem, the solution doesn't matter. So I'm not going to go right to the answer right now. We have to understand where the problems are so that you go, wow, that's genius. But do we all understand that right now, the way we are paying for things is the problem? Because we grow the capital and then we cut it down to pay cash. So this is a really important item. I love would we're actually be able to have a conversation back and forth, but quickly in the chat, just to, well, as many people as you can. Which one of these is known as financing? Paying cash or taking out a loan? Which one? Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So I'm looking for paying cash or taking out a loan. Which one is financed? Thank you, Teresa. Excellent. Got it. Yep. Okay, perfect. So I'll give everybody else their fingers a rest. They're both loans. So think about that for a second. Paying cash or taking out a bank loan, they're both loans. And the reason is, and this one you write down. You write down Apple Tree, but this one you write down. We finance everything we buy. Once again, we finance everything we buy, colon. You either pay interest to borrow somebody else's money, or you give up the interest your money could have earned if you didn't cut down the tree. So if your money in the bank was earning 1%, 2%, 4%, it can no longer ever make that money for you, because to go to the Philippines, you took that $8,400 out and interrupted the growth. I pray this makes sense. We finance everything by, excellent. Yes, look at that. Thank you for typing that in. I appreciate that. So let's go back to taking a look at how do we go from a saver to a wealth creator. This is what we're currently doing. We're saving and we're cutting down the tree. So this poor person here is cutting down the tree thinking they're doing what's best. They're a saver. But what we want to do is to take you from this and make you into this. We have an asset that we borrow against, allowing for the money, in this case, the apple tree, to consistently grow in value while we pick the apples. So we have the $8,400, we borrow against it. The 8,400 never left our system. It continues to grow for as long as you take a breath. We have a loan of 8,400, but guess what? Next year we're going on vacation again for 8,400. So that $700 is just paying back the loan, allowing for the 8,400 to consistently compound in a tax exempt, hands off CRA environment. Can I get thumbs up from anybody, or, this makes perfect sense, or hell yeah, or anything else, just so I know that we're still on the same path here? Excellent. It really does make sense once you understand the problem that you weren't aware of. You are transferring away hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of lost opportunity costs. And all this money can be kept in a completely tax exempt, tax invisible, no risk warehouse of wealth. So CRA never gets their hands on it. So that's what we want to create, is a wealth creator. If you're a saver, we're going to take you up to the next step. And we do this through the concept of infinite banking. So this is one of the problems that traditional financial planning says, well, you should be a saver, right? Don't go into debt. The problem is, following that, you're losing all of that potential growth because you keep cutting down the tree. As Esther alluded to, with this concept, we can turn expenses, which would have to agree a vacation is an expense. If that $8,400 never left your system and continued to grow in value, that now becomes an asset. We've just turned an expense into an asset. And that one vacation is one apple tree. Think about how many other expenses you have that you want to repeat the process. We're trying to get you to create an orchard of trees, each of those being an expense that you now recapture all of that lost opportunity costs going forward. So now we're going to get on to section number 2. And this is where my thumbnail over here is much more gentle than I normally do. I usually have taxation as theft. So when you understand that the government motto is the more you make, the more we take, we have to understand that they are completely in control of our taxation. In the chat, and I'm sorry, but I really want this to be interactive. When we look at the debt of all of Canada, that is federal and provincial, in a 1 week period, 1 week of the year, just 1 week, how much interest do you think we pay? Put it in the chat. As a dollar amount. This really is time delayed, isn't it?
Yes, there is, but I do have a question.
Oh, good. Okay.
Right after we, okay, while we're waiting for those, I have this one. I thought while we're on the topic of taxation, someone brought this up. I thought it was my responsibility as a citizen. So how do you want to address that?
Correct. So then it goes back to this. When does taxation become theft? So Christine, you're absolutely right. The essence of tax was for social services, right? Roads, infrastructure, healthcare, um, housing, all of those areas where we pay into this as a society, our money comes together to then take care of everything else. But I'm not sure where Teresa is, but how bad are the roads? How long does it take in the emergency room? How many people don't have doctors? So if we're paying tax for all of this, where is it going? And that's why I pose that question. How much money is spent per $1 billion in interest? Exactly. God, this guy is good.
Someone said I live in
It looks like Virginia.
yeah, maybe in the
So
USA.
not much different. US is actually in a whole lot worse situation than we are from a debt perspective. But in Canada, it's $1 billion a week just to
Wow.
service the interest. That doesn't pay down the debt. So back to Teresa's question, $52 billion a year is taken out of what we pay in tax just to cover government misspending. That is 520 hospitals, 520,000 nurses. That is infrastructure development. That is housing for people. That is free daycare. That is food for children. And it's going just to pay interest. And what a lot of people don't know, every year we transfer $52 million to the royal family. Why? Get a job. Why are we sending $52 million of our tax money over to the royal family? So it's all of these little expenses where it becomes a problem. And I'm saying, listen, yes, taxation is important. Taxes will be done at source. There'll be income tax. But we're going to get into some of the areas where what you're doing for retirement is actually playing into the government's hands. So we just did that. Appreciate that. So it's $1 billion a week. So based on the fact that the government is so deeply in debt, do we truly honestly believe that when we get into retirement, taxes are going to be lower? If they're already spending $52 billion just to pay the interest, and they're still spending even more, then rates are only going to be higher in the future. So I go back to my very first question. If you don't like paying tax, stop putting your money where it can be taxed. So in the chat, please tell me what the acronym RRSP stands for. I feel like we're on, dial-up modem. I really want this to be interactive. I just wanted, register retirement savings plan. Hassan, perfect. Okay, everybody else, you don't have to. That's what we've been told, right? Register retirement savings plan. You know what it really stands for?
That is something new, hey?
Yeah. And for 25 years, this is what I was in. So I'm still dual licensed insurance investments. I know what I'm talking about. An RSP is a really, really stupid plan. It is designed specifically to make everybody rich outside of you. You see your money growing before it's taxed. So I want to take a look at this. Is your RSP a ticking time bomb? It really is a ticking tax time bomb. So I'm going to just take somebody really simple. You got a 30-year-old employee making 75 grand a year. That puts them in a marginal tax bracket of 30%. Now, the RSP contribution is based on the marginal tax bracket. So they're getting a 30% break on the $6,000 contribution. 30% of 6,000, $1,800. Over the next 35 years, this person perceives that they're going to get an average of about a 7.5% rate of return compounding on their money. In 35 years, they retire, and at that point, the RSP is worth $1 million. Over 35 years, the CRA has given this person $63,000 in refunds, which is 35 years times 18,000. Now, the person now goes into retirement. They're going to stay with the same investments, and they're just going to live off of the 7.5% on the $1 million. So what does that look like? At 65, they earn the 7.5% on the 995,000. The income from the RIF is just under what they were making before at 74,625. Their effective tax rate's 20%. So yes, you've retired in a lower tax bracket. It was 30, now I'm paying only 20. But 20% on 74,000 is almost $15,000. Over 20 years, they paid $298,000 in income tax. Then they die, and the full 995 is now taxable at 49%. So they paid almost $800,000 in income tax, and all CRA did was give them $63,000 in refunds. So I want you to imagine, for a $63,000 investment by the government, they made $725,000 in income tax with no risk. An RSP is not a tax deduction. It is a tax postponement of a much larger tax liability. So in the chat, I'm going to ask you this question. If you were a farmer, and let's say you're planting tomatoes, would you, if given the choice, want to pay tax on the seed or pay tax on all of the tomatoes from that one seed? What would you choose? Let me know.
While we're waiting for that, I just want to say that this is like the RRSP, RRSP being a really, really stupid plan. That's something new that we've heard. Christine is
option 1, pay tax on the seed. Yep.
Pay tax on the seed. Eye opener for me as a newcomer to Canada on taxation.
I love the double X because that's like really taxed. tax axation. Yeah, it's like, yes. I think I'm going to use that one from now on.
Option 1, on the seed.
Perfect. So if we understand this simple principle, just like paying cash, and how when we cut down the tree, we interrupt the compounding of all that money in the future. When it comes to the RSP, the first contribution you put in is a seed, and you want that seed to grow. In this case, you want the RSP contribution, in this person, $6,000 a year, to grow. But if you pay tax on the seed and not the harvest, you understand what the problem is now. This person didn't pay tax on the seed. This person's paying tax on the harvest of $995,000. That's where the government has tricked us. And unfortunately, on the accounting side too, they're fixated on, and everybody is fixated on, what is my tax saving in the year? But the problem is we don't add up what that money is growing to and how much of a tax liability it's going to be when we get into retirement, and then unfortunately when we pass away. So this is a really, really important thing for us to understand. 1, the apple tree. 2, seed versus crop. You want to pay tax on the seed. And once we have this money that was going to expenses brought inside of infinite banking, and we replace the tax liability of an RSP inside of infinite banking, we've now put all of our money in a tax exempt, tax invisible environment where CRA can never get their hands on it. And it'll pass on to the next generation in a completely tax free environment also. So this sets up essentially a cascade effect from generation to generation of completely tax invisible capital. We're at 8:52 right now. There's more that I could talk about, but um, I'm thinking maybe we turn it over to some Q&A at this point. Um, I've given you the problems. I've given you the solution, but not the vehicle. And that is where we could probably go on for another hour talking about the vehicle, but that would be best on a one-on-one for those of you who are interested in how you can get yourself out of the tax system into an environment where there's no opportunity for loss and you're only picking the apples.
I think you can handle the mortgage strategy and then we'll go to question and answer. It's fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the beginning, Esther was talking about this, and I've been alluding to it. We're trying to get the Canadian population to understand where wealth transfers exist. Because once that money comes in, what falls through your hands are the wealth transfers.
That's
so
correct.
if we can put our hands together and pick the apples and not cut down the tree, we start to plug up the holes in our financial plumbing. When we're no longer putting money in to an environment that's going to be heavily taxed in the future, we don't have to spend as much money in tax in the future. Ideally for me, I want my retirement to be 80% tax invisible. The only two sources of taxable income, CPP and old age security. That's it. Everything else, government doesn't have a clue that I have and is going to be completely tax-free and pass on to my kids when I eventually, move on to the next chapter. The third one is mortgages. And this is where you're likely going to lose an incredible amount of money. So quickly in the chat, whoever has a mortgage or whoever is thinking of getting a mortgage, let me know if it is always a desire to pay that mortgage off quickly. Yes. So for me, I have not had money in an RSP since 1997. And I'm a financial planner. Go figure that one out. Or should we still use it in a way to keep benefits? Yeah, like I'm not saying RSPs are completely 100% wrong. We just have to understand what the problem is so we can reverse engineer the solution before it's too late. Right? If you've got a lot of money in a group plan, then it's got to stay there because you're forced to put money into it. But what if you could retire 5 years early because you set yourself up to be as tax invisible as possible, right? Who wouldn't want to retire early if they could? So do we have any responses to why, how many people want to pay off the mortgage faster?
Yeah, I think we have people saying yes.
Okay.
Lasana Sharif says no. Everybody's saying yes.
So here's a question. Mm-hmm. And once again, it's so much easier when we're just like live interaction back and forth.
Yeah.
Why do I say that the more money you save in interest, the more money you're going to lose? It's for this simple reason. When you put extra money down on the mortgage to pay it off quickly, the one thing that you are guaranteed to save is interest. I think we could all agree with that.
That's correct.
The shorter the amortization, the less interest we're going to pay.
That's correct.
So Esther, we're just going to do a quick little role play here. I'm the bank, you're the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for a mortgage that's going to allow you all of the bells and whistles to pay the mortgage off quickly, double up payments, anniversary payments, accelerated, everything.
Yeah.
I'm the bank and I want your money. So I design a mortgage to allow you to do that. We enter into a relationship. Congratulations, handshake. Nice to see you.
Yep.
Now, if you exercise that right, what are you
Yeah.
guaranteed to save by paying off the mortgage faster?
I'm guaranteed to save the interest.
Perfect. It's only the two of us in this relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the bank. If you're the consumer and you're going to save interest, then what am I going to lose?
You're gonna lose the interest.
Yeah. If you save it, I have to lose it, right? I would have earned it,
Yeah.
but you paid it off quickly.
So
So
then
the
you
question,
lose. I gain.
right, right.
Mhm.
So the question is, have you ever known the bank to do anything that wasn't in their best interest? Pun intended.
No.
So why am I willing to lose money? Guaranteed. I'm guaranteed to lose it because you're going to save it. Why am I okay with that?
I don't think you're okay with that as an
Oh,
institution.
no, I am fine with that. I am completely fine with losing the money. Why?
Okay. But then when I save the interest, I'm actually not increasing the value of my house. It doesn't
Ah,
change the value.
we'll get there in a second. But when you put extra money down on the value on the house, does
Hmm.
the value of the house change? If
No.
you put $20,000 down, does the value of your house suddenly go up by 20 grand?
No.
No, it's completely irrelevant. House has no clue you have a debt. So you could put $20,000 down and the house could go up by 10,000. It was going to do that anyways.
With
It
or
could also
without. Yeah,
it could also go down by 10,000.
that's right.
So if you put money into an asset and it does not change the value, what's the rate of return?
Zero.
Zero. So tell you what, you give me the money and I'll give you zero back. Is that our deal? Not as the bank, just as a person. Lend me the money and I'll pay you zero interest. Would you do that?
No.
Of course not. So why are we doing it to the bank? So now you have accelerated the transfer of your money, cutting down the tree, giving it to me, and I can now lend it out at much higher interest rates than what the mortgage is costing me. Exactly. Georgia has it. I want you to transfer the money as quickly as possible to me so I can use it to make more money.
Yeah.
So exactly. So the question is, if you now understand that that's what the bank's doing, just repeat the process. And that's what we do inside of infinite banking. We get you to start becoming the bank. So all the money from your expenses, all the money from the RSPs, even TFSA, and the money that you were giving away to the bank for a 0% rate of return, you now can recapture and accumulate all of that in a completely tax-exempt, risk-free vehicle. And you
That's
just keep growing more and more trees, so you can now start to use this as a warehouse of wealth, but you also get to borrow against it. And now you can have two assets. Stock market's gone down, borrow against this to go buy the market. The money never left your system, so it's still growing. Hopefully the market goes up at some point. And then because you borrowed money to invest, you get to write off the interest. So this is why I say the more money you save in interest, the more you're going to lose. Because the bank is making the money off of your money and it's not making you anything.
That's correct. And that's why we say the wealthy people know how to use debt to their advantage, right? So if you know how to use debt to your advantage, you know how to access the capital, and now you can create more wealth for your family, right?
One of the wealthiest Canadians is Jimmy Pattison in British Columbia, Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of his businesses, he never sold. He grew it to the point that it was almost like in real estate, right? It's now got money. He would borrow against that to start another business. To him, those are individual trees. And he has every single business that he ever started with. And the guy is in his late 80s. Didn't cut down a tree. didn't cut down any business, didn't sell it. They just keep making money. This is what I'm trying to get people to understand. Traditional financial planning is going to make you poor, because the more money you put away, the less you have to use today, which means you got to go to the bank to get loans. I have seen so many financial plans in 31 years where people have a, a 6-digit RSP, and yet they got a $40,000 loan, a $50,000 car loan. They're like, why do you have this? You have all this money as an asset, but now you're going into debt and paying interest at a higher rate than what your investments are earning you. And you know what the answer is? Well, because I can't get access to that without paying tax on it. Like, you're locking it away for 20, 30, 40 years, and then you go into debt on the other side. Makes no sense.
Is not a smart financial
No.
strategy.
And yet,
Yeah?
this is what we've been taught to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, with infinite banking, we completely get rid of all that. And you could have hundreds of thousands of dollars you borrow against it, but the money never left the system, so it continues to grow. This is just so simple, but it goes back to the very first slide. If you don't know you have a problem, the solution doesn't matter. So I'm hoping in the hour that I've been just blabbering that it's actually been really useful to get you to rewire your thinking, that the way we have been educated to deal with money is actually toxic and is making us financially worse off. I'll open it up to questions.
So, as we open up to questions, I just want to add on that as I know people want to know more about the solution, but in this session, we are actually identifying the problem. And as you will be leaving the call, you have a problem. That's when you'll be like, I would say, angry and tired, looking for a solution, right? When something is paining you so much, that's when you look for a solution. And before we take the questions, I just want to help understand why I started this myself as well, right? People used to ask me, Esther, where do you keep your money, right? What is the ideal investment? And as a traditional financial advisor, I will recommend all this RRSP, tax free, or wherever it is, right? But then when you listen to people say what they like, and I'll also ask you guys in the chat to tell me what you are looking for in an ideal investment. Someone would tell me they want a higher rate of return in that ideal investment. Someone else will tell me I want liquidity, right? And easy access. I just want to have my money. I can access it. Someone says, I like guarantees. I like my money in the bank. I don't have to worry about something. Someone will tell me I like safety as an ideal investment, and then someone will say they want tax advantages, right? Do they just want tax advantages, or they want it tax free, right? Someone would say I don't want any market volatility. Okay, so that's an ideal investment. You want credit approved as an ideal investment, right? And then you're thinking about, oh, my investment should be inflation proof. And then I have to have control over my asset. I just want to have it, right? But the thing is it transferable, right? Is it easy to manage? Or you have to manage it yourself? How about the fees you pay and the penalties that come with it? Is it reputable? And then you think about, is it privately owned? Do you have control over that? So if you're thinking about all these things in your ideal investment, this conversation is for you, because you can get everything I just described here in one strategy that we are providing in the next series. But before we do the next series, we want you to ask all the questions you have. The first concept we had is apple, right? Apple tree, where we talked about the savings, just a reminder. The second aspect of it was seed and crop, where we helped you understand the RRSP. Remember, we are not here to advise you on anything that is wrong. We are here to guide you and understand, educate you so you can make your own informed decision, right? And then the last strategy Scott spoke about is mortgage. I always tell people there's this book Rich Feldman says. He says, the biggest mistake people think is when they will ever become mortgage free, right? Because again, you'll become mortgage free, but you'll still pay insurance and you'll pay property taxes for the rest of your life. So I still ask you the same question. Do you then have control over that?
Can I pop in
So,
here for a second, Esther?
sorry?
Um, I just want to pop in here for a second.
Yeah.
Uh, it might be surprising. Maybe I look at, but I'm 60. At 60, I still have a mortgage. Why would I give the money to the bank? I can do so much more with it under my own control that it makes no sense for me to transfer the wealth to the bank. That's, so like I'm living proof that the concept that I and we are talking about, I'm living proof of how I'm actually using the system to beat the system. Now, I did pop up in Excel for the MERs. I don't know if we want to get into it, but if we've got some questions coming in, then that would be great
Yes,
to talk.
just because people are coming in at different times within the show, but I think we want to have these questions. When it comes to taxation, someone asked, how do we were talking about, not avoiding taxes, but not getting taxed as much. So how do I avoid that if I'm employed? That's one of the questions that we have.
Okay, should we address that right now, just one at a time? So,
Yes, before we
so,
move on to the next topic, I would say so, yes.
so there's always going to be tax when there's a transaction. We buy something, tax. You're getting, your employee taxed. So we can't get around that. But it's what we do with the money. So there, I actually absolutely hate this book. David Chilton's The Wealthy Barber. And The Wealthy Barber talks about the fact that traditional financial planning, you should save 10% of your money and just let the other 90% get flushed down the toilet. What? So we're going to pay tax, but the money that we have that comes in that front door, which is why I'm showing all that money falling through our hands, if we can avoid paying tax on our assets, we can avoid paying tax because we put money into an RSP. We can avoid paying tax in different areas. If we can make ourselves as tax invisible as possible, then at the transaction stage, we're still going to have to pay tax. And I'm not saying, we try not to, but it's what do we do with the money that we have that allows us to recapture as much of it as possible in a tax-free environment. I will never have money inside of an RSP because I don't want to be taxed on it. And one little known fact, at the end of 2022, the federal government mandated every financial institution has to release the year-end account balances for all of their customers. Your bank account gets sent to CRA, your TFSA, your RSP, your open account, your GICs, all of that gets sent to RSP, to CRA, so they can track how much money for everybody who's 50 years of age, 15 years from now, what does it grow to? How much tax can we get? Make your money invisible because we are pure puppets and the government is the puppeteer. Start cutting the strings.
Another question that I just want to say, like,
Yeah.
because I do copywriting, and I did some work for a tax accountant too. And I remember the tagline that I created there that says, tax is not the enemy, lack of tax knowledge is. It's just we thought of it like this way, wherein there are avenues that are legal, and we're not, we're not running from CRA. It's just that we don't know this. I mean, for me personally, I'm nowhere in finance industry. So for me, these are all new information. And it's not that we're running away from all these things, but rather we are being opened up into possible solutions that we have never known existed.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. Like I'm self-employed. Every quarter I have to pay installment to CRA. It's not a
Yes. Yeah.
surprise. It happens every single year. So if I know the money's there, I just put my money in the vehicle. So now it's there forever, and I just borrow it back. And
Yeah.
I do that every quarter. So now my income tax that was an expense is now an asset. That money grows for me every single day without interruption, without risk, and without tax. That's my own little apple tree right there, just for
Yeah.
CRA. Do I mind paying the tax? Yes, but the fact that I'm recapturing all of it plus the opportunity cost, because I'm never cutting down that tree, I'm happy.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for that. We have more questions in.
yep,
This one is one of them. Is it a good idea to pay interest only on a mortgage and save or invest the principal so it can compound?
I would say yes. And the best way to verify that is you can go online, look at mortgage calculators and just do interest only, see what the payment is, and then go put that extra money into an investment and take a look at the difference. It'll be just like the penny doubling every day. That money will start to grow dramatically. The one thing we have to understand, if you have been paying down your mortgage rapidly and you have all this equity, if you lose your job, or if you were required to have two people, both spouses, to get the mortgage in the first place, and now one of them doesn't have an income, you're going to have a problem renewing that mortgage.
Mm.
Even though you have all the money in there, they're going to go, yeah, but you only have one income now. Or you're on disability. How are you going to pay for this? Doesn't matter how much money you have in there, the bank still controls it. Get it out. You control it.
And it's the same way you're explaining, Scott. We are not trying to not pay a CRA. You're just trying to create wealth with the same cash flow you have, you know, to make sure that yes, you're gonna do that expense. Nobody's telling you can go for vacation. But we're
No,
just telling you can't cut the tree to go for a vacation. You just have to make sure that you can still do the same thing. You fund your lifestyle and fund your business overhead expenses by creating wealth.
yeah.
And those are the strategies we are helping us understand.
So this
Apple,
question,
seed and crop, and then mortgage.
yeah,
Those are the biggest thing. If you understand the problem, then we can talk about solution on a separate one-on-one.
the TFSA is a better solution. There's been lots of back and forth examples. This, the sheer fact that the TFSA is not taxable, the RSP. The problem is people forget the taxes will be higher in the future. So the tax on the RSP is going to be more of a penalty, more punitive than the TFSA. But the problem is both of those were created by the government. Both of those control the strings. The TFSA was not a Canadian invention. We strictly copied the Roth IRA from the US that had been out 15 years earlier. The US government is so much worse off financially than we are that they're looking at all the money in that tax-free account and they're talking about implementing a tax above $250,000. So what was considered to be a tax-free vehicle, because the government controls it and they can see what's in there, they're talking about putting a penalty, a tax penalty on any dollar amount above that. So if the government can see it, they can tax it. If they can't see it, guess what? Can't tax it.
But then the Roth CRA is still locked until someone is 59 years and a half. You see, that's where the catch is. So what are the
That's the
chances that
401. That's the 401k.
410K?
The Roth IRA is still
Okay.
liquid. But going back to that question, outside of just the government control, both of those are an apple tree you cut down. If I need access to my RSP in retirement, I'm cutting down the tree. If I want to take money out of my TFSA, I'm cutting down the tree. Why? There's something much better. You're just not aware of it. I work in
Kamsi has something here.
FI, financial institution. Got it. Okay. We're incentivized to sell RSP. Yeah, of course you are. Regardless of, exactly. Yep. 100%. And they're the ones that are going to be collecting the MERs off of that.
So
Right?
we reached the end. Sorry.
No, let's keep going.
We reached the end of the questions, but we still have 10 minutes or so with our time. We'll have the questions. If you have questions, just comment those and we'll address those later. If you want to continue on with whatever you have lined up for this,
I would
I'll give
love
the
to
floor
show
to you.
I would love to show the MER destruction.
Go ahead.
Can we do that? Oh,
Yeah,
look at that.
let's do it.
Okay. So it's not pretty. It's just a simple calculation. But let's say that we start off with, let's say somebody's got RSPs right now. So going back to the person who's in a financial institution, let's say they have $400,000 in RSPs or any investment, right? TFSA, whatever. Now, they're going to put that money in, say, the S&P 500, and a 25-year consistent rolling average is somewhere around an 8.92% rate of return. If they didn't have an MER at all, that would grow to about $3.4 million. That's fabulous. Now, let's say that they have an MER that's 2%. Okay, so now the rate of return drops down to 6.92. Well, that MER just took off $1.3 million. They could have had 3.4. They end up with 2 million. You only see this column and you're excited because your money is growing, but you don't have a clue how much that MER has made for the financial institution. So it's $531,000 of cumulative MER, but that money that you're paying couldn't make the 8.92%, could it? So that cumulative column over here at 8.92% is the 1.3 million that you lost. So this is a huge problem when it comes to building wealth, is just how much money is being taken off of you that you don't really understand.
And that is fees.
That's just management
Yeah,
fee.
we spoke about taxes. Now you're talking about fees.
And that's
As
a wealth
excited
transfer.
as we are, the growth is there, but there's something behind the curtains that we need to educate ourselves about. What is eating into your wealth? Taxation, fees, and inflation.
Fees, yeah. So, if you're doing segregated funds, which are very expensive, if they were 3%, then you still got, $1.6 million. You're happy, but you didn't realize that you just transferred away 1.6 million. More than 52% of your wealth was eaten up in the fees for the segregated fund. So if you're going to invest, you have to do it where the fees are the least. This is so important. You have to really understand where your money is going, because somebody is making this money. It might as well be you. So can you contact the bank and tell the bank that you want to pay interest only? Well, once again, that depends on the institution and whether or not they have that option. If you've entered into a principal and interest structure and you are in there for a year, 2 years, 5 years, then only when it matures would you be able to do that. And not every bank is going to allow you to have an interest only. Personally, my mortgage is with Manulife One, and it is an interest only. Actually, with Manulife One, I can choose not even to make mortgage payments. They'll just add the interest back on. So if there's a great investment opportunity, I'm not paying the money towards the mortgage. I'm using it to make money. And then when I cash in that investment, I can go and put it down to pay back what I should have been paying on the mortgage. So if you're able to, find a time to book a time with us to have the conversations, there are so many things that we are aware of that exist out there. And what's hilarious, if you go to Australia, a principal and interest mortgage is what we have here is completely foreign to them. Their mortgages are only lines of credits, not principal and interest. But you come to Canada and you talk about a line of credit only mortgage, that's foreign. Why would you do that? So it's perspective. It's what we have grown up into is our reality. And yet it can be very detrimental to our financial health.
So, what I'm hearing you say is we have to unlearn what we have learned to make
Yes.
sure that we understand how money really works so that we can be able to create wealth.
Yeah.
And in that regard, it's not about how much people are making, it's about understanding the basic concepts on how money can actually work for you.
And how much you're losing and will lose depending on how you have allocated that capital, right? Into mutual funds, look how much you're losing. Into taxable investments, look how much you're losing. Into tax later investments, my goodness, look how much you're losing. In cutting down the apple tree for paying for things, because remember, we finance everything we buy. So every transaction, it'll go down to the microscopic. You buy a coffee, you buy a chocolate bar, whatever. That's a permanent wealth transfer because that money is no longer there. You choose how microscopic you want it to be in recapturing every penny possible. We can set up a plan for you to do that.
Wow, I think this session is one of the biggest eye openers to everyone. And even though myself, I've done the course and graduated, I still learn. And you understand that the problem is huge and is actually deep rooted into our mindset. So we have to unlearn what we have learned in order to start building wealth. And the good news is there's a solution. For every problem out there, there's a solution. The question is, do you understand you have a problem and that you're looking for a solution? If you understand you have a problem, you're looking for a solution, then there's a solution. The only thing I understood in the beginning is we finance everything in our lives, whether we spend our cash or whether we borrow someone's money. And from there, you ask yourself, how many cars will you ever own in North America?
Yep.
How many properties will you buy in North America? And how many renovations will you do plus the vacations you'll do? And think about the opportunity cost we are losing. And then the question is there a better way of still maintaining that lifestyle while creating wealth? That's why we are here, to help us understand. And for those who will understand that they have a problem and that they need a solution, those are the people who will move from where they are to where they want to go. The difference between a successful person and someone who's struggling is lying in the information you know. So I'm very grateful, Scott, for sharing all these nuggets with all of us. And I know that we have a lot to ponder tonight.
Yes.
And We
I
will
just
be
hope people,
meeting with you guys. Yeah, one on one if you want.
yeah,
Or we can create a series too where we'll talk about a solution. A solution that is tax sheltered. A solution that you will enjoy while creating wealth for your next generation. In real
and
wealth management, we
generation.
talk about creating wealth means you increase your capital. We are giving you opportunity to do that. When the market have fallen down and people are complaining about tariff, blessed are those who had these strategies in place because the opportunity arose during that downfall market and they have just created numerous wealth because they had access to capital, you know. um, those people who want to make sure that in their retirement, when they are less able to work, they can still be able to borrow as much as they want and do whatever they want to do with what they want to do. This is the time to build that warehouse, financial warehouse. You build it now so that when you're not working or when you go renew the mortgage and they're telling you you didn't make enough income and that's supposed to be your asset, you just realize you lost control. So we want to make sure that those things are taken care of. And Scott and myself will be more than happy to guide you through that process.
We're trying to help as many people as possible. I was fortunate to have two mentors and a quote from each of them. The first one, rethink your thinking. The second, if what you thought to be true wasn't, how quickly would you want to know?
Hmm.
And I think during this presentation tonight, you came across a lot of things that you thought to be true that just wasn't. And that's allowing you to rethink your thinking and take it to the next, next level where we can start to implement the solution into each of your individual structures because you're all as unique as a thumbprint or a fingerprint. It's not a cookie cutter approach, which unfortunately traditional financial planning is just all cookie cutter.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Camille, is there any way you want to?
Thank you so much, Scott. I think
Welcome.
everyone is so excited for the solution session, right? They want to know what the vehicle is to make this tax efficient, with the fees, all the things that you discuss that will help us with our finances. That would be for the next session. Hopefully, we'll plan that.
Sure.
But in the meantime, now that you have there, we have people saying very much excited for part two. Now you know that you have a problem, that there is a system better than what we know is existing and what we're so used to doing. We invite you. I drop the Esther's link tree in the chat. We invite you to explore this solution one on one, because yes, we do have a solution, but it's not a one size fits all. It should still be
Customize.
fixed for customized for you, tailored for your situation, all those things. Explore it. This is okay. What vehicle are we really talking about? So we'll talk that. Explore it. Click the link that I shared in the chat box. Schedule your session with Esther. And maybe Esther can invite Scott as well to talk through these things and how it fits into your specific lifestyle, to your specific goals, into your specific financial situation right now. So that's right there in the link. Thank you so much for joining us. Anything, we've got love and thanks from all our attendees. We have many people. I think we have roughly around 28 to 33 back and forth joining us
Nice.
at different timelines, right? So thank you. We'll share with you the recording after this for those who were not able to attend. We'll share the recording with them. This is in YouTube, so you can easily access that. But again, anything that you want to share as closing, Scott, Esther?
I think I will throw a challenge to Scott. If you
Uh-oh.
can kindly, please, and thank you, come back next month so we can clock him the next part 2 series of
Perfect. Love
this
to.
before they forget. Yes, he said
This is
yes.
yeah, this is
So that's good.
important. Like we have to empower Canadians to take control of their own finances and stop abdicating responsibility to everybody else because we think it's too difficult or it's just too
Mhm.
easy. Right? The easier it
Mhm.
becomes, the less intelligent we become about what we're doing with the money. So yeah, love to get into it.
All right. So Camille will send out the posters for next month. It's gonna be a Mother's Day month, but solutions will be the basis so that before you forget the problem, we give you the solution so that you can decide what you want to do with your own finances. So thank you so much. God bless all of you. And for all the business owners and everyone who is attending this session, we really appreciate you. I know it's a busy time, and you know that, we know that you trusted us with your hour, 15 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes, and we are very
Yeah.
grateful for that. The only thing we'll ask is give us a feedback on how you like this presentation going forward so that we can improve every time. It's a learning process. We just try our best to deliver, but your feedback is really, really appreciated so that we can continuously improve these sessions. Thank you so much and have a
Thank you.
great night. Bye.
Bye.